Woohoo, we're live. This is Factoring by Grouping. We're still in 6.1 for Math 40 Elementary Algebra. And this is the next stage of factoring out common factors. But now what we're going to do is we're going to be factoring out bigger common factors. These are going to be binomial factors. So let's take a look at this. In this first problem, it just says factor completely. And you'll notice that on the paper, I have r times t minus 3 minus s times t minus 3. And these two, this t minus 3 and that t minus 3, match. And if I've got two things that match, they're common. So in other words, shared. And so what I can do is I can factor that out to the right. Now, you could also factor it out to the left if you wanted to. So the t minus 3 comes out. Now, in the first one, I had an r. And in the second one, I had a minus s. So here's t minus 3. They went home, but it had been r times t minus 3 times r right there, minus s times t minus 3. There's the minus s. There's the t minus 3. So this is just another way of factoring, but in this case, let me see if this is dry. I'm factoring out a common binomial. Okay, shall we try a couple? So number 2, I have 4 terms. The thing about grouping is it usually happens with 4 terms. That is a terrible E. There we go. 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. And generally what happens is you look at it and you say, ooh, my brain says, ooh, wise. What? Wise, yeah. Okay. So 3 terms with y's. And so I think y is a common factor, but then this term doesn't have a y in it. Okay, so I go looking for numbers. There's a 12 here and a 3 and a 4, but this one doesn't have anything other than a 1. So there are no numbers that are common either. So we got 4 terms, nothing in common. So what we do is we say, okay, well, let's try to see if we group them. So I'm going to take the first 2 and the last 2. I'm going to say, let's see if the little groups have anything in common. This is like if you've ever been at a convention and they have everyone sit at different tables and talk to their small group. That's what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can factor inside the group. So y cubed plus 3y squared, what's common between those two? You're right. There's y squared in both cases. This is y squared times y, and this is y squared times 3. Now, in these two, what's common? So the first 2. In the second 2, what's common? 4y plus 12. You're right, there's a 4. Okay, so in each of these 2 little groups, let's factor. I'm going to factor out the y squared in the first 2, and I get y plus 3. And I'm going to factor out the 4 in the second 2, and I get y plus 3. And then we have a big celebration, because when you do this, if these 2 match, which they do, then we win. Yay! And you're amazing. Ooh, flying pens. And your amazing, wonderful prize is that you get to factor this. Woohoo! So the y plus 3, I'm going to factor it out to the right. So this is what's going to look like. The y squared comes here, just like above, and the plus 4 comes here, and then I write the y plus 3. And it's at this point that usually someone in the class says, wait a minute, hold your horses. In this line, we got 2 of these, and in this line, we've got 1. And the answer is yes. This is the contraction. This is the shorthand. This is me saying I went to Ohio and I went to Minnesota. I'm listing them both separately. This is where I'm saying I went to Ohio and Minnesota. See how that happens? I'm still saying the same thing. This is like a shorthand for it. This is saying y plus 3 gets multiplied by these both. Woohoo. Okay, let's try another one. Now, this one's a little more exciting because we got all the minuses running around. It's a big old negative party. But you'll notice it's very similar. I really liked a lot of the same numbers and the same letters, so I decided to go with it. I'm going to look at the whole thing. I'm going to say there are a bunch of X's. Yeah, but this one doesn't have an X. And there are a bunch of numbers, but this one only has a 1. So no common factors throughout the whole thing. So what's next? Well, they're not in descending order. Don't sweat it. If there are four terms, which there are, leave them in the order you're given them in. Look at the first two and the last two and say to yourself, okay, what's common between these two? You're right, there's an X. If I factor out an X, what have I got? X squared plus 3. Okay. In the second two, now, notice that minus in the middle. Remember in the last section, which for me just seems like minutes ago, but in this last section, I said, if there's a minus to begin with, you need to factor that out. And this is that case. So I'm going to look at what's common. And I see there are no X's that are common, but I do see a 4. 4 goes into 4, 4 goes into 12. So I'm going to factor out a 4, but not just a 4. I'm going to factor out a negative 4. Now, this is the one where it's a little tricksy. So take a deep breath. We can do this. Minus 4x squared is negative 4x squared. So I factor out the negative 4. And then I have negative 12. If I factor out a negative 4, what should go here? You're right. It should be a plus 3. Negative 4 times x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Okay, did it work? Did we get matching things? Woohoo! Now I'm going to tell you, in the real world, they almost never match. So this is all the problems we're going to be giving you. If it works, they're special problems. In general, if you just walked up to a polynomial on the street, even if it had 4 terms, this would not work. So this is a very special case. Okay, I got x squared plus 3, x squared plus 3. Woohoo! So over here, I've got one binomial, and over here, I've got the x squared plus 3. So now we just have to figure out what's in this binomial. The x plus 3 comes out, it leaves behind an x. This x squared plus 3. This x squared plus 3 comes out, it leaves a minus 4. And we are done. Bam, that's 6.1. Next up, 6.2. More factoring. Woohoo!